I have always been fascinated by the mystery surrounding lonely places, especially those that seem trapped in time. Imagine an Oxxo in the middle of a deserted road, where solitude and silence are so palpable that you can feel it creeping into every corner. That was the atmosphere that enveloped me during my night shifts, a place that at first seemed ordinary but soon transformed into a scene of horror and despair. Have you ever wondered what would happen if, on an ordinary night, you found yourself trapped in a cycle from which you could not escape? This is the story I want to share with you, an experience that has left me marked forever. It was a night like any other. Darkness had settled over the road, and the lights of the Oxxo flickered weakly as if they too felt the weight of solitude. My shift began at 11 o'clock at night, and although at first, time seemed to move slowly, I soon realized that something strange was happening. Familiar customers entered and exited the store, but there was something unsettling about their faces. Each time they returned, their eyes appeared more sunken and their skin more pale. They bought exactly the same products: a pack of gum, a bottle of water, and a bag of chips. It was as if they were trapped in an endless loop, and worst of all, they didn't seem to realize it. In a moment of curiosity, I decided to check the security cameras. What I saw chilled my blood. Although the recordings showed customers heading for the door, they never actually left. It was as if the Oxxo had become a prison for them. The situation became even stranger when I noticed that the digital clock on the cash register always read 3:33 a.m., no matter how much time passed. Every time I looked at the clock, that same hour continued to glow ominously. As the night progressed, the refrigerators began to emit an increasingly intense buzzing sound, a noise that resonated in my head like an unsettling echo. The products on the shelves seemed to move by themselves. A bag of chips here, a bottle of soda there. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me due to accumulated fatigue. However, I could not ignore the growing sense of dread that seized me. One particularly dark night, just before dawn, a final customer entered the store. As he approached the cash register, I felt a chill run down my spine. When I looked up to serve him, I froze. It was him, or rather, it was me. His face was disfigured, and his smile was unnatural, as if he were mocking me from the other side of the mirror. In that instant, I understood the horrible truth. The Oxxo was not just a store. It was a limbo where nocturnal customers were trapped in an infinite cycle. And I had been dead since my first shift. Terror overwhelmed me as I tried to process what was happening. I tried to scream but could not make any sound. My voice seemed to have vanished along with my humanity. I watched as the customer repeated the same ritual, buying the same products with that empty and lost look in his eyes. It was then that I realized we were all prisoners here, condemned to repeat this night endlessly until dawn. As daylight began to filter through the windows of the Oxxo, I felt a mix of hope and despair. Perhaps at dawn I could escape this infernal cycle. Perhaps I could free myself and others trapped here with me. But when light finally illuminated the place, something extraordinary happened. The Oxxo began to fade before my eyes. The shelves crumbled and products disappeared one by one until only an empty lot remained before me. In that final moment, I noticed something on the ground. An old yellowed newspaper with news of a fatal robbery that had occurred decades ago in a convenience store similar to this one. Reality hit like a cold wave. Everything I had lived through had been a repetition of the tragic past that had ensnared so many lost souls within the Oxxo. I awoke in the middle of a field with the sun shining brightly above me, feeling how each ray illuminated my skin as if I were being reborn after being submerged in darkness for so long. As I sat up trying to remember how I had gotten there, everything seemed blurry, as if I had been trapped in a deep sleep from which I had finally awakened. I looked around searching for some familiar sign, but only silence and solitude greeted me. I decided to walk down the road trying to find some clue about what had happened. As I moved forward, my thoughts filled with questions. Had it all been real? Had I really been trapped in that Oxxo? With each step, I felt a strange mix between relief and anxiety. Every step took me further away from where I had spent so many terrifying nights, but also brought me closer to uncertainty about the future. After a while, I found a small town at the edge of the road where I decided to stop for rest and reflect on what had occurred. When entering a cafe, I noticed how curious glances fell upon me, as if I were a stranger, or even someone lost in my own world. I ordered coffee and tried to relax while watching locals chat animatedly among themselves, but something continued to torment me, that persistent feeling of being watched, that unsettling idea that perhaps I wasn't as free as I believed. While sipping my coffee, I decided to tell the owner about what happened, even though I doubted anyone could understand. Her expression slowly shifted from disbelief to deep concern as she listened intently. While recounting my experiences, her face reflected compassion, but also fear. She warned me about old stories regarding that Oxxo where many had disappeared without a trace, where it was said that lost souls still wandered seeking release. That revelation ignited a spark within me. I realized that I could not simply walk away from my past. I needed to return to the Oxxo, confront my fears, and free those trapped with me. So it was then that I decided to embark once again on that path toward the unknown, armed with determination and with an ardent desire to break free from this eternal cycle. Upon arriving at where the Oxxo once stood, there was only an empty lot covered by weeds, but deep down inside knew something more profound existed, something hidden beneath its surface. So began digging with my hands, feeling how each grain of dirt fell between my fingers, until finally finding something hard, something cold. It was an old metal box covered in rust. When opening it, found personal belongings, photographs, old letters, forgotten memories belonging to those trapped in limbo within Oxxo. As I examined those objects, understood each represented a lost life. Each memory contained fragments of truncated stories, so decided to honor them by sharing their tales with anyone who might find them, speaking about them, giving them voice, even after they had departed. Thus began writing about those lost souls, creating narratives to share with others, remembering their lives, their hopes, their dreams. With each story told, felt how little by little those souls began to free themselves. Their floating energy seemed dissipate, filling air with peace. Finally understood that by giving them voice was breaking eternal cycle, allowing them find rest after so much suffering. Today I want to share this story with you because firmly believe there are hidden lessons even in darkest tales. Sometimes we find ourselves trapped in repetitive cycles without realizing we are those who must break invisible chains. If you ever feel lost or caught in your own daily life, remember this story and always seek light at end tunnel. Because although there may be shadows, there is always hope. If you enjoyed this tale and want to hear more unsettling stories like this one, don't forget to leave your like and comment what you thought about this terrifying experience. Your support is essential for continuing creating exciting content for all of you. Subscribe to channel so you don't miss any story. Until next time, stay alert, because you never know when unknown might lurk around again.